Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Now this ad right over here is just perfect. You know, actually, funnily enough, there's a clip from The View that I want to play which I think will help tie this whole thing together. Recently, the totally neutral, non-biased, totally fair ABC's The View released some really great insight about this campaign, where Sunny Hostin said this.
Look, I think that Kamala Harris has been running a flawless campaign, and that's why she raised billions of dollars, $1 billion.
The claim is that Kamala Harris is running a flawless campaign. Yeah, real flawless.
Well, there was a lot that was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done.
If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
You've been reluctant to lean into, to talk about the historic nature of your candidacy on the campaign trail. Why is that?
Well, I'm clearly a woman. I don't need to point that out to anyone.
I'm sure the graphs indicate that, right? Right? Yeah, a real flawless campaign. You know, we have a definition for this kind of thing. It's called the soft bigotry of low expectations. But anyways, I found this claim rather interesting, but most importantly, I found it was misattributed. We know Kamala Harris is running a trash campaign. She's definitely not running a flawless campaign, but you know who might be running a flawless campaign? Yep, you know exactly where I'm going with this. He has a name and he has a title. It's President Donald J. Trump. Folks, the Trump campaign has been on an absolute tear. Not only with their massive events that are straight up breaking the internet, like Donald Trump cooking up and serving up fries at McDonald's, and now heading straight to New York City, the Big Apple, to host probably the greatest political rally of all time at Madison Square Garden. Not just that, but also just the little micro details. Trump always has an answer. I know Kamala Harris calls herself the underdog, but she's not the underdog. She has the entire establishment behind her. Every celebrity you could possibly imagine, every talking head across the mainstream media, all essentially campaigning for her. Meanwhile, the entire system is hellbent on destroying Donald Trump, but he still manages to outplay them at every single frickin' turn. And once again, that's exactly what he does with this incredible video. Kamala Harris has been on this campaign attempting to paint Donald Trump as exhausted, unhinged,
Who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And clearly his staff has been saying he's exhausted, and the sad part about that is he's trying to be president of the United States, probably the toughest job in the world, and he's exhausted.
They've been attempting to paint Donald Trump as incapable, unhinged, old and falling apart, you know, like Joe Biden. And Trump says, well, you know what? I'm not even going to really respond. I'm not going to go into it. I'll respond with my action, and then just release a legendary behind-the-scenes video showing the American people exactly what I'm doing. This video right over here, folks, completely shuts the narrative. Kamala Harris is once again exposed as a total liar and fraud. Let's have a conversation about it. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so I think I laid out most of what I wanted to say in the intro with a bunch of accompanying clips. Don't usually do that, but you know, I think for this context it actually makes sense. So you guys get it. Now let's play the video. Just take a look at this. I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Starting our day off bright and early, it is 7:30 a.m. and we are leaving Trump Tower and heading to Fox Studios. President Trump was excited to join Fox & Friends live from the famous Curvy Couch. Never far behind are the men who keep our boss safe every day, and we are thankful for them. The day continues rolling as he joins Dan Bongino for a live stream, and he never leaves without signing a MAGA hat. Now on to our third interview of the morning with legendary WWE's Mark Calloway, also known as The Undertaker. We film a quick TikTok, depart the city, and 2 hours later we are wheels down in Michigan. President Trump stops by to shake hands and thank the tireless Michigan campaign team. The motorcade heads to our next stop, where President Trump arrives to speak at a roundtable on building America's future. If you're lucky, he may even sign your shirt. Pulling into our final event of the day, and before he heads on stage, he always makes time to take photos with law enforcement. And now the fun begins. There is nothing like the energy of a Trump rally. President Trump delivers his promise to make America safe and prosperous again. It's not over until you see the iconic Trump dance. And just when you think he might be finished, he has his fourth interview of the day and calls into a tele-rally for Kari Lake. It's 1 a.m. back in New York City, and that's a wrap.
I mean, it's just perfect. And it just makes it so incredibly clear. You know, Trump doesn't need to go to the media and say, look, I'm working so hard. Kamala's lying. He doesn't need to say that. His actions are speaking for themselves. And as we know, actions speak louder than words. Kamala Harris is blah, blah, blahing, but Donald Trump is actually getting the job done. And the data's clear. Just look at the chart. Donald Trump has done so many more public events and it's not even close. Yet the Democrats have the audacity to claim that he's tired, exhausted, and can't keep up. Give me a freaking break. There's nobody who can keep up with Donald Trump. I mean, just look at the last 2 weeks. What has Kamala Harris really done other than piggyback off a couple celebrities and regurgitate the same frickin' line over and over again? The ambitions of the people. Donald Trump can never stand behind the seal of the president. Blah, 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 blah. A couple totally coordinated events. Meanwhile, Trump is everywhere, laying it out there, his vision, who he is, responding to all the attacks, and most importantly, working harder than, frankly, almost anybody I've ever seen. I mean, I consider myself a hard worker. To get to the position where I'm at today, and not even just in this YouTube career that I've developed, even with the previous job that I worked, I dedicated my entire life to working hard, developing skills, and being able to monetize my skills. I consider myself a hard worker, and I learned from my father, and with a lot of people around me, you know, I notice that people don't work as hard as I do. But when I see Donald Trump, I feel like I don't work hard enough. I feel like I'm not doing anything, to be frank. And it makes me think of one line. You know, there's levels to this stuff. And Donald Trump is just on a completely other level. He's up early in the morning, gets in the Escalade, goes to Fox News, does a bunch of podcast interviews. Not just one interview, not just one podcast, but multiple in a day. Then gets on a plane and heads to Michigan, meets with people, does rallies. Back home, next day, same thing, over and over again. The guy is constantly working. I mean, it's almost unbelievable, especially at his age. And now, as I'm recording this video, it's Friday morning. He's probably on a plane flying over to Austin, Texas to sit down with Joe Rogan. What is that, like a 4 or 5 hour flight? Then probably boom, right back to New York, Madison Square Garden. I mean, like I just keep saying, it's just unbelievable. He is everywhere. And even when he can't be there publicly, he's freaking calling in. I mean, how many of these call-ins have we seen? Donald Trump is always on task. While Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are sleeping, Donald Trump's watching the news, understands what's going on, is making call-ins to Hannity's show, Fox and Friends in the morning. Or, funnily enough, the latest viral video, calling into News Nation as JD Vance is doing a town hall with Chris Cuomo and just being typical Trump.
Senator, you're going to want to sit down for this one.
Oh, no.
Not unlike Beetlejuice. If you invoke the former president's names too many times in a row, he's going to want to weigh in on what is being said about him. And we have a call right now from former President Donald John Trump. He wants to weigh in. Mr. President, I know there's a little bit of a delay. Can you hear us? And what is your question for the senator?
Well, I can hear you, Chris, and I do have a question, and I think it'll be quite an interesting one. The answer should be easy. How brilliant is Donald J. Trump?
Take your time. Think about it.
Well, first of all, sir, this is supposed to be undecided voters. I would hope that I have your vote, of all people. But here's first of all, sir, of course, you're very brilliant, and we both agree. We both agree that it's important to have very smart people running our government. But here's the thing about President Trump, that aside of you, sir, if you'll forgive me for telling this story, that I think often people don't see. And of course, I got my beautiful wife here in the front row. And one of my favorite moments with President Trump is we were hosting an event for him near our home in Cincinnati a few months ago. And of course, you know, my wife was a little bit nervous to really, you know, talk to the president of the United States. And he asked her, what do you think about your husband being in public service? And she gives, if you know my wife, a very diplomatic answer. You know, sir, he really cares about the people of Ohio. He's thrilled to be able to serve them, and I'm happy to support him however I can. And President Trump chuckles and goes, yeah, my wife hates it too. and the thing that it did is it just immediately broke the barrier. And it wasn't the former president. It was just a person talking to my wife. And I think you guys were able to have a nice conversation. But that ability to relate to anybody in any environment, I think that's the true brilliance of Donald J. Trump.
That's very nice. and I appreciate it.
You know, it may seem unrelated, it may just seem like a dumb little clip, but it's not. The point is, Donald Trump is always on the clock. He's always listening, paying attention, and most importantly, he's always making himself available. And of course, I know the left-wing fact check's gonna come in. Well, what do you mean he's making himself available? He hasn't made himself available for CNN, or he hasn't made himself available for 60 Minutes, MSNBC, or any of the other debates that Kamala Harris signed on to. Yeah, but I think there's some key context missing there. Donald Trump doesn't make himself available for those events because it's clear that those events and interviews have one mission and one mission alone, and that's to destroy his campaign. He's been showing up to all the mainstream media interviews and debates basically since day one of his 2016 campaign. But he's noticed a pattern that all they do is hit him with gotcha questions, bogus fact checks. They spend more time debating him and attacking him than actually being interested in what he has to say. So why engage at all? You know, the people understand why Trump doesn't show up to those places, and it certainly has nothing to do with him being exhausted or scared. If anything, it's a matter of principle. And you know, it just proves my point further, that the entire system has been structured in a way to attack him and to stop him from ever becoming president again. Yet despite this, he's leading in the polls. And what do we call that, folks? We call that a flawless campaign. If Donald Trump manages to win this election, which it seems that's where we're headed, it's once again going to be a victory for the man versus machine. Despite all odds, against all odds, Donald Trump will have climbed the political Mount Everest. Now that's what I call a flawless campaign. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.